Hey, welcome to the Northeast Hunt and Film podcast. I'm your host, Jason Alex. Here you'll find hunting stories and strategies based mainly out of the Northeast, but will also include hunts from all around the country. If you can hunt it and you can film it, chances are we're going to talk about it on here. Enjoy. Welcome everybody. Another episode of Northeast Hunt and Film. Joined this week with Steve Sherk. Steve is a guide down in Pennsylvania. Talked pretty extensively about trail cameras. He runs a lot of trail cameras. Summer trail camera strategy, that kind of stuff. We talk mock scrapes. We talk mature bedding or mature buck bedding and things to look for in that regard through different times of the season. And then we talk lastly about his guide business, and he's pretty well booked up. He said he normally books. He fills up around February every year, so he only takes about 30 clients because he just does it himself, and it's tough to run any outfitting service, so time is definitely valuable. So we are about 6 or 7 weeks out from HUNTSTOCK and getting pretty excited about it. Pat gave me a code. If you guys haven't bought tickets yet, which you should, I suggest getting them in advance because it is going to be capped. Certain amount of people per day. But if you go to eventbrite.com or just go on Google and type in HUNTSTOCK and it'll bring up the Eventbrite page. And then there's a little green tab that says Get Tickets. Click on that. And then you're at the menu where you're selecting which days and how many tickets you want. Well, just above that, there's a little blue, the letters are in blue. It says enter code or enter promo code maybe. Just click on that. Type in Hunt Film, all one word, just HUNTFILM. And it'll give you a 10% discount. So save you a little bit of money there. I'll be there all 3 days. Saturday morning, I think he said at 9:30. I'll be going live from the main stage with the guys from NORTHWOODS WHITETAILS. If you guys haven't heard of NORTHWOODS WHITETAILS, you definitely should check out their page. Some of the best content in the Northeast, in my opinion. They did a little short film for Loophole called November, A Month in Pursuit, and it's just I love that, like, cinematic, they got the drone footage in there and everything looks really good. The audio quality is really good, and yeah, I love stuff like that. I'll put links down below for all this stuff you guys can check out their page, check out Steve Sherk's website, follow him on Instagram. He posts a lot of photos of some smasher bucks. I'll be doing at HUNTSTOCK. I'll be doing a bunch of giveaways. I don't really know what that looks like yet, but I'm kind of leaning towards, like, put your name in a hat type of thing. And at the end of the event, or maybe I'll do it per day, but you'll win, various prizes. A grand prize might be like one of every piece of merchandise I have there. There'll be hats, hoodies, t-shirts, stickers, all kinds of stuff, but that might be like the grand prize or something. But yeah, I'll have a bunch of stuff going on there. And like I said, I'll be live Saturday morning. So it should be a fun event. There's going to be a 3D shoot, which I hope I get the chance to shoot. It might have to be Sunday or Friday, but I'm going to be talking with, I think I got Jeremy Ballantyne, Neil Pendleton, and Pat Burns set up for one, which will be amazing. I mean, talk about some big buck killers. Just Hunt Club. We're going to hop on the mic with a couple of those guys, and yeah, we'll be lining them up. So probably won't have a voice by the time Sunday rolls around, but that's all right. It's going to be a fun event. and I look forward to seeing you guys there. This isn't hunting related, but if anybody here is going to the Southwick National, the Pro Motocross National, I think it's July 9th. I'll be down there, Southwick, Mass. So look for me. I might wear a podcast T-shirt or something. If you see me, say what's up. And I guess lastly, a new video up on the channel where I reviewed the Cruiser XC saddle that I hunted out of last year, and I plan on hunting out of for many years. I think that one's super comfortable and really breathable, lightweight. So check that video out if you're thinking about saddle hunting this year. If you are, I suggest getting it early and practicing with it up and down the tree and get your system going. Don't do like I did, and 2 years ago I bought all the stuff and practiced with it a couple of times and then went out my first hunt and just struggled, and I didn't really like it. So definitely get proficient with it, have fun, and we'll get in this podcast with Steve Sherk, and I look forward to seeing you guys at HUNTSTOCK. All right, we're live. Got Steve Sherk on the line tonight, all the way down in Pennsylvania. What's going on tonight, buddy?
Oh, not too much. Glad we finally were able to connect, and I'm normally thinking about deer all day anyways, but I tried to get my mind right today and be ready to have a good conversation with you, and hopefully all your listeners will enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they will. I told quite a few people that I was going to have you on. They're like, yeah, dude, that guy, that guy's a killer. He knows what he's doing. But
great.
So you're probably pretty busy. I mean, obviously busy working and stuff, but the amount of cameras you run, you got to be, you got the full head of them out, or how do you kind of, or first of all, how many cameras, do you run a year? I mean, I'm sure you got some that stay up year round like I do, but what do you normally run?
I got over 100 out right now. I mean, it'd be nice. Every year I say I'm going to put a couple hundred out, but I never quite get to that extent. I'll probably have around 150 by time hunting season comes. And the thing is with me too, I'm leaving so many out year round. I mean, I literally have had cameras on the same tree that I haven't pulled for like 4 or 5 years. So it gets easier when you're not taking them in and out. I mean, granted I am pretty hard on my cameras, but when you're hunting remote woods, and I don't probably have as much time as what some people think I do. So if you got cameras you want to put 1, 2, 3 miles back in the woods, it's very hard to just, every year just be transporting back and forth, pulling them, putting them back. So I found that, that's just one good reason why I leave a lot of them out year round. So I probably left about close to 100 out, after this season. I just didn't even pull them.
Yeah. What do you find is like a good, because like you said, you can't be running around changing batteries and stuff all the time. So you have a few on select scrapes that you run on video mode? Are they primarily on photo mode just to conserve batteries? I mean,
what I find is the video mode ones I hate to leave go for a long, long time. Like if I can check that camera roughly every 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even sooner, I don't mind doing the video mode there because I can keep up on the batteries better, make sure the SD card isn't full, and then even sometimes, like depending on how long you run your videos for, I mean, occasionally I'll run them for like 30 seconds, and I've done it before. I've left a camera go close to a year, and then you're talking like literally 8 hours of just watching videos, which is nice, don't get me wrong, but half of them are blanks, and then it's just hard to find the time. So those real long-term soaks, I really, just prefer to keep the camera just on regular picture mode. But I like to set my cameras up to take as many pictures in a short amount of time as possible. Like, some people will set their cameras up 30 seconds, a minute or longer. If the setting's right, I'll have it, take a picture every 5 seconds. it just seems to be a lot better than video mode. I love to run video mode, but only in certain situations.
Yeah, maybe more or less certain times a year.
Yep, that's true too.
You know, when they're really working the scrapes, and you can gain intel on direction and all that kind of stuff.
Yep, and honestly though, when you're running, if you're able to set it up within 5 seconds, you're still going to get quite a bit of intel. Most of the time, a deer is at a scrape for quite a lot longer than 5 seconds anyway. So you're probably usually able to tell direction of travel and where he was headed to after that. Certainly, video mode can be a little bit better, but like I said, it really for me it just depends on the location whether I'm going to do video or regular picture mode.
Right, and I'm sure you've developed some sort of because certain times a year you don't want to be in there, you know, too often. So you probably got a pretty good cycle going. How many years? I mean, I know you've been a guide for quite a few years, and we'll talk more about that at the end. But so how many years have you been up in this this triple digit realm of of trail cameras?
The triple digits probably only like 3 or 4. But I've run 70, 80, like close to 100 for, probably good 6 to 8 years.
Yeah.
And I've had goals where I've thought, well, I'm going to run 3, 4, 500 cameras, and I'm not exaggerating, but it honestly just becomes too much work. I mean,
you'd have to hire a guy.
It sounds like you could just leave them all out there year round, but they're going to need battery replacements. It's just honestly very hard to run more than 100 some cameras. I can tell you that, and to do it effectively.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to hire somebody out who wasn't a hunter.
Yep. I mean, honestly, I think I see nothing wrong with running even more than what I'm running. It's more of, I do most of the work myself, and one man can only do so much. Plus, I can't really afford to pay other people to check my cameras, nor do I really, even though I'm a guide and I show people areas and take them to my hunting spots, I really don't want to be inviting extra people into my areas anyways, especially because it's public land. But like I said, I do pretty well with the amount that I'm running now, and maybe someday I'll run more. I don't plan to run less, but I'm happy with where I'm at. Yeah.
How big of a footprint does that look like? I mean, obviously it's a rough estimate, but
yeah, I mean, I would say I'm probably in roughly about 100,000 acres.
Yep.
I can't say it's just like a perfect circle or the perfect square. It's kind of, I'm kind of in patches here and there, but roughly that in a straight line from the furthest point to the other furthest point, I would say about 100,000 acres.
Yeah, that's a good chunk.
Yeah, it's probably, and mile-wise, I'm probably in about a 30-mile stretch.
Yep. Yeah, so, yeah. That makes you can't check them all in a night, that's for sure.
Yep, no, exactly. And usually, like, a lot of people have asked me, how do you remember so many? But I talk a lot about clustering cameras, and it actually just becomes really easy after a while because, like, I'll know this area has 10, this area has 15, this area has 20, or, vice versa, or a certain amount. But it does become a routine after a while. Like today, I mean, it's almost sort of like a calendar cycle. Like today, I had an area that I only go in once a month, but today had been 1 month since I went in this area. And like today was, okay, today's that day to check that camera. And then while I'm in that area, I might as well check some others. But there's some cameras that I check, every 1 or 2 months. Some I leave soak for 6 to 12 months, and then some I check maybe every week to 3 weeks. So I'm kind of all over the place. It just depends on the area, and if I feel that I don't want to, give the deer too much of my presence in there to kind of let them catch on to me, then usually I'll stay out. If I'm not worried about that, I'll check them more often.
How much have you noticed, like, obviously right now we're in mid-June. How much have you noticed that, your impact right now is, like, it's a lot less severe than, if you're mid-October or whatever. Are
Um,
you more apt to check them more often, or you just stay right to your cycle?
I mean, right now I feel it's kind of borderline. Like I'm getting a little concerned if I was to go into some areas, more often than what I should, just
Okay.
for the fact that like when I really go hard in some areas and don't really care is just right after hunting season when there's been a lot of pressure, because it takes a little while for the deer to recognize and understand that hunting season's over. Like they literally don't know the exact day it's over. So like that first month or two right after, I'll really pound some areas. I could care less how often I'm in there. I'm not worried about that. But after once we get, further into the spring and summer, I start to get more cautious because I want deer to be comfortable into these areas. I want them to understand that and think that, there's no human pressure, everything's safe. And then going into hunting season, and mainly especially before gun season next year, I like to leave a lot of areas non-pressured as possible, just for the fact that when you're not, putting pressure on areas, it's much easier to hunt and get an idea what the deer are doing.
Right. Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, after a Pennsylvania gun season, there's there's some bucks
Yeah.
hiding out.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I figure the first month or two after that, go ahead and, really scout. You can get right into bedding areas. I've bumped bucks at that time of year. It's just one of those things where you have to be able to scout some of these areas and know them thoroughly at some point of time. But
Right.
why not do it, 8, 9, 10, 12, or, 8, 9, 10,
Yeah.
11 months in advance, as far back as possible? Then, I don't really want to go in there right now. It probably wouldn't have much of an effect, but let's just play it safe and let these deer live in their areas normally and naturally. And that way, whatever I'm seeing on the cameras and any sign and what I'm finding, it's all going to be based on non-pressured deer, which for the most part are way easier to hunt.
Yep. Yeah, postseason you can go in there, bust in, and
Yeah.
who cares? It's irrelevant. You see a big buck fly off, like, oh, look at that guy, look at him go.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, some people will say you shouldn't because, they're going into rest mode and that, but I'm
Yeah.
also not in there like 7 days a week, every day of the month or whatever. Like I might go in there 3, 4, 5 times after hunting season, get to know it better, and then I'm out for good. So those few days of me bumping that deer, and most likely I'm only going to bump him once, maybe twice at the most. I don't really buy into that as long as you're not like every day,
Yeah.
the whole winter beating up on those deer. I got a lot of ground that I'm hunting and scouting, so I'm in and out of places, and I'm definitely not overpressuring deer right after hunting season. But in my opinion, that's the best time to go in.
Yep.
And if you're gonna really show your presence, do it that far in advance versus right now or even closer to hunting season.
Yeah, because like you said, it's I mean, you're still a threat to them, but you're not for next season.
Yep. Yeah,
It's
and I mean,
irrelevant.
the thing is too is like, even though we're months away from even archery season, but mature bucks do have areas where they are living right now, like they are still in high alert mode, maybe not the highest of alert mode, but they're still always trying to get away from human activity. And even though there's not hunting pressure, like you said, there's still human activity year round. So they're trying to find those areas literally year round. And some of those areas right now are going to be used going into next hunting season. So once again, my point is you're probably at a point now, be a little more safe than sorry. I'm not saying don't go in there at all, especially if you have cameras, but, once every month or two, go in, check the camera, mostly just make sure the camera's running good and, batteries are good and so forth. But it's just one of those things that you got to know where deer, or especially mature bucks, where they are using these areas, so that going into hunting season, especially, you're able to kind of just pick and choose the right days to hunt these areas, and knowing, okay, I played my cards right. I did very minimal as far as going in there and over scouting, and if you do it right going into next season, you should definitely be able to hunt that buck in his most natural state of mind.
Right. Yeah, we got in New Hampshire here. We got a September 15th opener.
Yep.
So it's they're kind of still. I shot a buck not last year, year before. He still had velvet. I mean, he wasn't still in velvet, but he was still shedding it.
Yeah,
that was on
cool.
September 18th.
Yep. No, I believe that's awesome. Yeah, and I've, even though our season doesn't come until October, but that's kind of right in the middle of a transition period where you can get a fair amount of mature daylight buck activity in that mid-September range versus once you get into October, they're way more nocturnal then. So that's a really cool and great time of year to take advantage of a season, just for the fact that, a mature buck's going to be quite a bit more daylight active at that time.
Right. So how would you, I mean, I know I've heard you on other podcasts say, like, if you could just have a mid-September opener, you'd be in the chips. But so how would you, speaking generally, what kind of pattern would you go after a bigger, more mature buck on? Is it bed to feed or feed to bed type of thing?
Well, I think in a lot of situations at that time of year, even though they're probably really getting out of those bachelor groups and being kind of more on solo mode then. So usually what you find right after they break from those bachelor groups is they do start to spend a little more time in bedding areas. They're not out in the open woods as much. Even though there's probably a pretty consistent bed to feed pattern that time of year, I still think you're going to be better off hunting that buck closer to where he's bedding, or if you can get real tight to his bed, that's even better. But I do think at that time of year, he's leaving the bedroom during daytime hours and maybe even coming out of it during daytime versus October. For instance, like if I'm hunting a buck in early October and he's living in a clear cut or a thicket, he's rarely coming out of that thick stuff until after dark. Mid-September, he's probably going to come out before dark. So
okay.
You have another hour or two of daytime activity. That's just basically what I've seen, mostly on trail cameras.
You think they're just like that window, their guard is down a little bit more, and then kind of you get closer to October, it kind of goes up from what you're seeing?
Yep. And, it's not one of those things, though. People will tell you, or at least some hunters will say, well, it's because there's all kinds of people in the woods and, they become more nocturnal. That's honestly not really it, because we have some really remote areas that, I've monitored with trail cameras and scouted and hunted over the years. And, I mean, I've got areas that really may not even see a human, some years at all. And those bucks there that are not getting pressured are on that same pattern, that same shift. The closer you get to October, the more nocturnal they get. I just think it's really in their DNA, and it's just amazing how inside they really have almost like a calendar. I'm not going to say that they know exactly every year when our season's open, but usually, once you get later September, early October, there's very little daytime activity outside of the bedroom, and most of the activity is going to be in thick cover at that time.
Yep. Yeah, so it gets a lot more difficult.
Yep. Like I said, you can hunt the fringes of a buck's bedding area during that mid-September period, and which makes it a heck of a lot easier, because if he's in a real nasty thicket, it's very tough to get in there without making noise. You're not always knowing exactly where he's bedded. It's much easier to get a little bit away from that situation somewhere, a little more open woods, maybe catch him on a scrape, where the cover, transitions and meets the open woods. Maybe if you especially know where he's coming out and heading towards a food source, like that scenario there, I think think could be real deadly in mid-September. And I can honestly say every year, like, I'm super jealous of all the hunters that get to hunt at that time of year, because I'm scouting and checking cameras at that time of year thinking I could kill that buck, and then literally in a week or two it's a complete opposite game. So those hunters should definitely feel thankful that their states allow that hunting at that time.
Yeah, it's something I'm still trying to figure out. I've been hunting super long, but the pressure does affect it a little bit. I think there's certain areas around where I live that people run right out there opening week and give it hell, but yeah, it's definitely something I'm trying to figure. That early season, I gotta figure out a little better during the obvious times of November. But
I mean, just if in any area where there's public land and mostly any area has mature bucks. Obviously, some states have more than others, but you'll always find that bucks usually act even differently than does, because just over time bucks have learned that they're hunted harder and pressured more than does, and you'll find does coming out to a food source during daytime hours way more often than mature bucks. But my point is that it's embedded in their DNA before they're born to know these things, and it's just amazing that their body, one of the things that's going prior into archery season is that they start to realize that it's going to be getting close to hunting season, and they become more nocturnal. Now, I will say it's not just that though. They're also generally moving a lot less that time of year, but they're also eating a ton. So they're trying to find the most perfect environment. Usually they're going to bed somewhere where there's like maybe not the primary food source, but a really good secondary food source. If you have a thicket that has a lot of good browse coming up and just a lot of natural food, those make really good bedding areas, especially in the early season, because a buck can stay in that cover all day, but yet he can eat all day too. And a bedded buck, he's not a lot of people, when they think bedding, they think he's just laying there all day, where they rarely lay in a bed more than an hour. They're moving all the time, but it's maybe 20-30 yard moves, then lay back down, get up and feed, lay back down. So that time of year, all that movement is generally confined into a smaller area, even though, like I said, they're up and moving all day on and off, but it might only be an acre or two, and 99% of the time it's in some pretty darn thick covers. So that's really what makes that that early part of archery season difficult.
Yeah, it's figuring out. Like we got, the food up here. If we got a good acorn year, it's like forget about it. It's we got so many oak trees. I know mountains that are. I'm not kidding at all when I say that it's 65-70% oak trees, and it just.
Yep, we do too.
On a bumper crop, it's like how do you even begin to figure this out? And pretty big woods.
And I know up your way, and I have some areas similar too, where there's like non-logging. There's really no thick cover at all. So it really makes it very hard to pinpoint bedding, because most of the time when you're trying to find mature buck bedding, you're looking for thick cover. So I know like parts of Vermont and some of those areas up in that part of the country, when you have no logging, it really makes it more difficult. There's a lot of area that's just wide open oak woods, but yet, there's some, at least I'm not saying you guys are, in big buck heaven up there, but I know there's some big deer, and there's definitely some mature deer. So it makes it even harder to pinpoint those deer when there's feed everywhere. So now you can't predict where they're feeding. It's very difficult to find the bedding. So it can definitely be even more challenging, that situation.
Yeah, the laurel is I hunt a lot in Mass, and
sure.
Even here in New Hampshire and southern Vermont too. Parts, not the national forest. They got that moose maple, which is just a nightmare. But that laurel is like, that's their that's their cover. There's
Yep.
some laurel thickets I've been in where you start, you're like, oh, I think I can see the other side, and then you get in, and you can literally pick your feet up off the ground, and you're suspended in the air. It's so thick,
Yep.
and
So and yeah, it's just
and
the
you
way
don't
it tangles
know
through itself.
how, like, do I go back out or do I keep going? And you get out of it, and you mark that on the map, like, yep, do not enter. That's where they're growing old, is hiding in that
Yep.
stuff. They're probably not in the middle of it, but they're enough in to,
Yep.
you
And I
know.
mean, you'd be surprised. I've seen mature bucks go into some nasty stuff that you would just say, how does he even get through there? But
Just pick his
he's
head
looking
up and
for a
bust
place,
through.
where nobody ever goes. He's learned several years back that no one ever goes in there, and if I just go in there and lay down, it's a good chance I'll see another year, or maybe even more than that. So that's why you have some of these big deer. They've learned that, and they continue to do that. And even if you do know that they're in there, they're still pretty darn hard to hunt and kill in there.
Yeah. Yeah, they got the wind in their favor. They figured out their escape routes, and it's,
Yep.
yeah. That's what makes it fun, though. If they were easy to kill, there'd be none, but
Absolutely.
that's the game.
I totally agree. And as hard as I work at it, like 9 out of 10 times I hunt, they defeat me. But it's just that those few times a year when hopefully I get a win, like that makes it worth it.
Yep. Yeah. So let's transition a little bit. I wanted to pick your brain about scrapes,
Okay.
mock scrapes in particular, because I've made a few. I've made a few that worked. I've made a few that they could care less about, and they make a scrape 15 feet from it, and I can't figure out why mine wasn't good. But so if you were to, let's say you dive into a new piece of woods, haven't been there. First, I guess it's probably postseason or spring scouting. That's the best time, right? So
yeah, that's when I make most of my scrapes, in the spring.
So are you finding existing scrapes, community scrapes and such, and kind of playing off those, or how, like, if you're going to go in and make a mock scrape in a new area, what are you kind of like looking for?
Yeah, rarely am I, if I find a really good scrape, I'll just use that scrape.
Right.
I'm not one of those hunters that, I'm not going to say I don't believe in it, but some hunters, when they think of a mock scrape, they're trying to fire a buck up. They find a scrape that maybe he's working, so they set one up near his and hopefully, piss him off and maybe get him to come back more frequently and maybe even investigate the mock scrape more often. It's not a strategy that's ever really worked for me. So if I find just a scrape that, him or other deer in the area are hitting a lot, I'll just, I think that's great. I'll hunt off of that. But a lot of times what it is there's just not the right there's not a good tree in a spot, for a good licking branch and that a deer can kind of create themselves. That's generally where I will make a mock scrape, because honestly, I've been hunting deer and done this for so long. Usually, and we can talk about this further on, but usually I'll know where a scrape is going to be. So when I go into an area and I'm thinking there should be a scrape here, generally what I'm finding is there's not a licking branch, coming off a tree that the deer can reach. So that's most of the time where I will make a mock scrape, is just where I think there should be a scrape. If you want me to jump into, what I'm looking for, or when what kind of area this is, I can do that. If I just don't know if you want me to get too far ahead of that.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Yep.
What are you finding them mostly on? I know it's hemlock a lot here. I don't know.
Well, most of the time a scrape is going to be on a trail, on a deer trail.
Yeah.
A lot of my favorite scrapes to hunt are like around bedding. Like, for instance, I might find a buck's bed or several of his beds, and then there'll be trails coming out of that bedding area. And then once you get out of that bedding area, because usually he's going to claim that area for himself. But on the fringes of that cover that he's using most of the time is where you're going to have a lot of other deer activity. So generally, when he comes out of his bedroom, he's going to often hit a scrape or make a rub, or both, or there might be a rub line in that situation. But that's kind of like my favorite area to make a scrape, because he knows that there's generally not a lot of deer activity where he's going to bed, and this is more going into like hunting season versus maybe right now or different times of the year. But when he comes out of his bedding area, one of the first things on his mind is he wants to see, okay, who's been around. And generally that's right on the fringes of that thick cover that he's using. And like I said, if I find the actual beds, I'm then looking for trails, heading out of the cover and maybe heading out towards the food source, or generally where the cover transitions to more open woods. That's where, I'm looking for scrapes. Most of the time I find those scrapes, but not always. And like I said, most of the time, the only reason why there's not a scrape there is there's just not the right tree. A lot of times you'll have branches coming off trees, 7, 8, 9 foot high, and they're just up too high for the deer to really make a branch and make a scrape. So
Yep.
Most of the time that's really just what my mock scrapes are, because I'm just more looking for the right spot for a scrape, because the best scrapes are in these kind of locations, and usually there is a scrape there, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a prime territory.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, and there's scrapes in a lot of other places. That's just like my favorite scenario. It's not my favorite scenario in the rut, like going into the rut. That's not even somewhere where I'm going to hunt at all. I'm going to be hunting more around doe bedding or doe feeding. Still like to hunt around scrapes in those areas. Once again, if I don't find scrapes around doe bedding or doe feeding, then I'll make a mock scrape. And that's another spot, like even a lot of hunters might overlook, thinking, well, it's not much buck bedding. It just it's not kind of the place where I'm going to hunt. Well, one of the biggest mistakes a lot of hunters make is most of us put most of our deer hunting time in towards the rut and during the rut, but yet I don't think enough of us think about the rut. Most people are focused on individual buck activity, where he's bedding, and really just trying to hone in on what he does. But in the rut is when he's going to be the most unpredictable. But the only thing you can really base off of in the rut is what your does are doing. So if you're always constantly paying attention to your does as well, really you're going to be a much better rut hunter, and probably going to have way more success, because that's when most of us are putting a lot of our time in anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's something I need to learn too, is kind of, I think I spread myself too thin. I love to scout. That's my favorite thing to do.
Sure, that's awesome.
Frankly, hunting's boring. I scout around until there's track and snow, and then I get to go have fun. But no, I do stand hunt, and I'll put my all day sits in when I feel it's necessary. But I get dozen trail cameras out there and bounce around, and I think I just need to, this year I want to try to narrow it down and like maybe just throw nets, throw 5 cameras in this area, and maybe just have 2 or 3 spots that, I mean, I know plenty of perennial spots that have been good, and I've missed good deer by a day. I was in there the next day and checked the trail camera, and there was a nice 8 in this scrape yesterday.
Yep.
But
yeah, I mean, you're going to have areas that are good for the rut. There's areas that are basically good for all the different parts of hunting season, gun season, early season, mid-season, you name it. But it's just a matter of knowing ahead of time and learning more about your areas as the years go on, and also being ready to adapt from throughout the season, because every season is going to be a little different, whether it's weather, food sources, hunting pressure. But you always got to be thinking ahead. And you can't just kind of be narrow-minded. And, I do believe that a lot of us probably specialize and are more successful, maybe some of us better early season, some of us better in the rut or with a gun. But overall, I try to do really well and be ready for each stage as the season's going. And like I said, there's areas I like for early season. There's areas, for the rut and gun season, and I'm always monitoring these areas and paying attention to what the deer are doing because honestly, I'm just always thinking ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's smart.
Yep.
So I want to talk to you about the rope scrapes too.
Yep.
When and why did you start doing that?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm definitely not the inventor, creator of rope
Right.
scrape. I can't really remember where I saw it. It was getting somewhat popular really before I started doing it myself. And at first I was like, man, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not very natural.
It looks foreign, but
but the biggest thing I like about rope scrapes is, they're probably the most durable scrape as far as, you can hang a branch and, a deer can snap a twig easily, or, overall a branch isn't going to be as durable as a, good, thick half, 3/4 inch piece of rope. You tie a good knot. And I mean, I've got rope scrapes that have been going on for years now, still the same rope. That's really what I like most about them is the durability, because if you lose that licking branch, whether you're using something artificial like a rope or a real branch in general, doesn't matter. If that branch breaks and there's not another branch accessible, the scrape will shut down completely. So
Yep.
It's nice to know, especially that, okay, I can leave that spot go for 6 months, and there's a 99% chance that scrape's still going to be active when I check it in 6 months versus, there's been times I've made a mock scrape, left the camera go for months, and to find out that, within a month or less, maybe even days or weeks, the scrape shut right down because my licking branch broke. So, that's what I really like with rope the most. I will say, rope, how you brought up, it seems kind of foreign. Well, it actually is a lot of times to deer, at least in my experience. I've found that at first, deer don't have a lot to do with it. I checked the camera about a month ago on a rope scrape, that had been going for about a month, and some of the deer actually spooked when they kind of, investigated it. So, they weren't used to rope, but through time, that rope is going to really outlast just about anything that you use. Plus, it's going to hold that natural deer scent really better than an actual branch. So, it's a better scent wick, more durable. The only thing is if you're going to make rope scrapes, put them out months in advance, because it's going to take a long time for your deer to get used to them. And you want, going into hunting season, your deer to be conditioned to your scrapes, coming into them frequently and comfortable, and not, like what I said, I saw on my camera, the deer were actually spooking from them. So you definitely got to know when to put them and when not to make them. That's for sure.
Carry some rope in your turkey vest.
Exactly. That's something. I kid you not. I rarely go turkey hunting without a few cameras in my pack, batteries, cards. Most of my turkey hunting, I'm checking cameras anyway. So I'm always deer hunting or scouting. Turkey is just a little bit of a bonus thing. I can kind of kill two birds with one stone. But definitely, that's a great point. And really, I wouldn't even suggest making rope scrapes anywhere near fall, like probably July or August. After that,
that's the
just
cutoff.
Stick to natural. Yep, stick to natural scrapes, because once again, going into archery season, you've tried to create a pattern or a situation that when a deer comes into that area, it's going to know about that scrape, and a lot of times when it passes through, it's going to visit that scrape. So you're trying to create that consistency of a pattern, and you don't want to mess things up or waste your time, making rope scrapes, too late in the year. It's still, I still make a lot of scrapes, just regular licking branches. I mainly use beech branches, but like I said, rope scrapes are really good. But every kind of scrape or whatever you're going to use, they all have their their pluses and minuses. It just depends on really how you're going to use them and when you're going to use them.
Yep. Do they like the the hemlock licking branches down your way?
They
That's
do.
a real popular one up here.
Yep. The only thing I found with hemlock is it is a little more brittle than I like to use beech. I found beech to be extremely durable. Like you can almost pull a truck out literally with a beech branch. It's very strong. It's very hard to break too. It's got thousands and thousands of little fibers with inside of it versus like if you snap a hemlock branch, it almost is like particle board or something inside.
Yeah, softwood.
The beech is very stringy and durable, so it withstands really good beating. It lets the deer pound on it for a long period of time. Plus, beech branches hold their leaves a long time after, even after you've cut the branch, which makes the scrape more attractive in a lot of different ways. So, but I see a lot of scrapes in hemlocks. The only other thing I don't like about hemlock, and like I said, I'm not saying I don't like hemlock overall, but why it's probably not at the top of my list also is I do tend to get a lot of false triggers when I point my cameras at hemlocks. At least that's been my experience. But they still do. Deer. Actually, if I was to pick a tree, though, I think hemlock would be my favorite tree because I've probably found more buck beds under hemlocks than anywhere else.
Yep.
But getting back to the scrape situation, I find tons of scrapes under hemlocks. It's just not my most suitable mock scrape situation, or even using the branch in general. They just haven't held up as good for me.
Yeah. I find too that like if you find a random, like the other day I found what I call white pine, a long needle pine, and it was the only one on this bench. Quite frankly, I don't even know where the seed tree came from. I couldn't see a pine anywhere. And that thing had a giant community scrape under it. It was about, a 3-inch diameter tree, about, 10 feet tall. And it is just big, 3x3 scrape under it. I said, that's worth noting. This big, cliff dropped off on the back side of it, and it was just bench, and there was another, the bench went up from there, and there's plenty of trees to get up in and sit in. I said, I'm gonna definitely at least run a camera on it this year. I don't know if I'll hunt it, but I'm gonna let a camera soak and see what that brings.
Yeah, that's what's nice too about whether it's pine or hemlock. Even the rubs or scrapes, like they tend to even stick out, and they're still visible even this time of year. Like you don't tend to get like a lot of weed growth and a lot of extra greenery, in those areas. So if you are going through hemlock or pine, even this time of year, really keep a close eye out for last year's deer sign, because it still tends to be visible just for the fact that it's not all overgrown, and so that is a good point, and I'm not surprised that you noticed that, because I'm seeing the same thing sometimes this late in the year.
Yeah, it seems like if there's a tree that almost doesn't belong, they just, I don't know, they tend to gravitate towards it.
Yep.
And I know those softwood trees must just, hold scent better or something. They like but like you said, the beech too, I noticed that. It's usually, I have seen some signpost rubs on like hard maple trees and stuff, but for the licking branches, it's normally a softwood, mainly hemlock for softwood, and then the beech.
Yep. And I mean, I'm really only talking about beech for mock scrapes. I find scrapes under a lot of different kinds of trees, but once again, when I make a mock scrape, I want it to last, and maybe even just keep going for years. And I have some of them that have probably been going for 10 years. So I'm thinking of, okay, what's almost like you're building your own house. Like, what's the best way to do this? How am I going to get the most long-term, results out of it? So that's at least what I found to be best. But I mean, like I said, I find tons of scrapes under hemlocks. You name it, as long as it has, the right overhanging branch and it's in the, really good location, you'll find you're making scrapes under them.
Yep, that's a fact.
Yep.
So, you being a guide, you probably don't get a whole lot of time to hunt for yourself. At least not during the rut.
Hmm.
So, how many days do you actually get out with weapon in hand? I know you probably out there early archery season, giving it your
Yeah.
best, but
I fortunately in archery I get to hunt more than probably what most people think. I'm just not always in a stand at the everybody's in their stands well before daylight. I don't always get to do that, but I'm not when I'm guiding archery, I'm not like in the stands with other people. So
right,
I'll help them get to a stand. It's getting better though. Like some of our clients are even just remembering things, and after you come so many years, you can easily remember. Hey, you remember where you hunted here or there, and so it's getting better for me to actually find more hunting time. Which is really good because I don't want to say that I don't like being a guide, but overall I'm a deer hunter, so I'm going to take as much hunting time as possible. But I never really get like just good quality hunting time though. Like there's always something going on. Got to move stands. Got to help this guy. Got to do that. A lot of my sits are very short sits. Not once again not always at prime time or not even always in the best locations because once again when you're limited on time you're not always going to be able to get to where you want to get to. But it really does though. Being a guide has probably even led me to just more hunting time overall because I'm in the woods, every day in hunting season. I'm not like most people that are, out of the woods and working an 8-hour shift somewhere. So, overall, I'm getting more hunting time than, what most people do, but it's not, you can also look at it this way though, like I might get 8 hours to hunt a week when someone might get 16 hours to hunt totally for themselves all weekend. So
right.
then again, you take your pick. But I kind of like the fact of hunting a little bit every day than only getting those 2 days every week, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you kind of you're more in the game because
Exactly.
you're
Yeah.
getting updated every day.
Yep. Because who knows with weather what can happen. It's much easier or much. I don't want to say easier. That's not the word, but like you're just better off being able to hunt some every day. Whether it's weather or any other factors. And like you said, you can be. There might be a thrill or 3 really good days throughout that week to hunt. Maybe it's a cold front or some type of situation like that, and I can take advantage of that. Maybe it's only an hour sit, but still, I got to hunt that day versus God knows what can happen. Just counting on that every weekend, and
Yep.
and honestly, it just like you said, I'm constantly scouting. I don't feel rusty coming into Saturday morning when even though it's probably been on the mind of most hunters all week, like I feel really fresh every day and at the top of my game, versus like having to catch up.
Yeah, and you kind of know what's going on.
Yep. But I will say, like, last year, I never even, I don't even I think I only had 2 days last year that I deer hunted, which was in New York, that like no guiding involved. Just like literally could just hunt and had the full day to hunt, nothing to think about, nothing going on in family life. Like that's where being a guide, it starts to wear on you because like, you never get like your fill, even though I'm out there every day, but like, once again, I'm not always getting to hunt the best spot or not always get to hunt the deer I want to hunt, but only getting a couple days a year sometimes to really do it the way I want to,
Yep.
That's where it starts to wear on you a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, I know a lot of guides, deer and moose guides up in Maine and stuff, and they always used to take a hunt guide through, do the
Yep.
moose thing and then guide through rifle season, and then muzzleloader, they finally get to go and they, you know,
Yep.
just pound the
Exactly.
woods, just
Yeah.
trying to get their buck. But
Yep.
I
No,
respect it. It's a definitely a grind. People don't really, oh, you're a
Yep.
guide, you get to just hunt every day, and it's no, it's work.
Yeah. No,
It's hard
that's what I
earned.
mean. And you never, like I said, you never get to fully always think for yourself. If somebody gets a deer, somebody needs a hand, or somebody wants a stand move, like you're just constantly working. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I really enjoy doing it. I feel like super blessed to be able to just be in the situation that I'm in. So by far, I'm not complaining at all. But no matter what, there's no perfect job out there, even if it's involved with hunting. I can tell you, everyone always thinks the grass is greener somewhere else, but
Yep.
nothing's perfect. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, there's troublesome clients, and there's,
Yep,
situations like that. You just gotta deal with it as they come.
exactly.
So, Steve, if people want to find out more about, actually, so what do you guide just all of Pennsylvania's seasons, or you mainly focus on some, or how does your season structure work for, like, if
Um,
someone wanted to book with you?
Yeah, I only guide during the rut for archery, which is the last week, roughly the last week of October to around mid-November.
Okay.
And then I also do gun season, usually just the first week. This year I made exceptions and donated a couple hunts for the second week of gun. Our gun season only lasts 2 weeks anyways,
Yeah.
but normally, it's just the first week of gun. So, other than that, I don't guide like early archery. We also have like a late archery season here, like after
Yeah.
Christmas, and like I don't do that.
That's when Johnny Stewart's out there running around.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. But I'm not saying there are bad times a year to hunt,
Yeah.
but I'm in the landscaping business, so like one of the main reasons why I got into guiding was it was just like a slow work period for me, and it was
Yep.
just added income to come late fall or whatever.
Got all
Yeah,
your fall
still
cleanups
sure it'd be
done,
nice
and
to just be hunting for myself all day every day, but why not make some extra money and see what I can do with it. So that's just kind of what I've done. But the other times a year, just too conflicting with my work schedule and family life and things
yep.
like that. So that's just kind of it'll probably stay that way for a long time.
Yep. Cool. So you got the Instagram page, but you also got a website, correct?
Yep, SherksGuideService.com. And just a couple things too. As of right now, we are fully booked. I will say I'm still getting and I apologize to people, but I get some days maybe 20 voicemails on, Steve, just wondering if I can book a hunt with you. I just literally can't keep up with
Yeah.
telling people every day that I am booked up. And I'll be honest with you, if all goes well every year, I'm probably going to be filled up every year no later than February. However, every year, usually late in the summer, just before September 1st, I usually get a few cancellations because my cancellation policy is no refunds after September 1st. So generally what you'll see is a few people just sense something's going to happen in the fall and they don't want to lose their money. So you'll probably see me post some openings, closer as we get closer to September.
Yep.
But as of right now, unfortunately, I'm not even answering calls, or I just don't have the time to, to constantly return every call and tell someone, I'm fully booked for this season. And I always let the previous year's clients have the opportunity to book, for the next season. For instance, usually, most of them will start around Christmas and around the New Year. I'll then find out, who all is coming back, and quite a few of them generally rebook again. So the window of time for people to book is really those first 2 weeks of January, or your best chances to book a hunt with me. I've always had at least some openings then, but honestly, like I said, by February, I'm probably going to be booked up, and it gets harder to get something scheduled done.
Yep. So you defer all the rest over to Bo Martonic?
What's that again?
Defer all the rest of the people over to Bo Martonic?
Yeah. Yep. No, he, like I said, he's a great friend of mine in that.
Yeah. I love his podcast.
Oh, absolutely. And I've been on there quite a few times. He actually doesn't even live that far from me. So, I said,
he'd be a good fill-in guide.
And absolutely. But, honestly, it's one of those things too, like, I kind of like to keep to myself as doing it. I'm not saying I don't trust anyone or anything, but it's more like I don't want this to ever be like a big giant business as well. Just, I guide like 30 some clients a year, and I'm just as happy with that.
Yep.
So.
All right, Steve. One last closing question. I kind of ask people that, I wouldn't say it's a loaded question, but for some people it's very difficult to think of a time. But you've obviously killed a lot of big deer, and you've studied deer very extensively with 100+ trail cameras and doing that for years. Can you think of a time where you went from a kid, whatever, killing small deer, and can you think of a time where like the switch kind of flipped and you're like, oh, okay, like this is how mature deer operate, and this is how is it like a specific defined situation, or is it more of like it kind of merged over time and you can't really pinpoint it?
Yeah. It never was a switch for me. The desire was more of a switch to do that. Like, when you're younger, a spike or whatever, a 1.5 or 2.5-year-old buck is honestly felt just as good then as when I've killed a bigger deer now. But after a while, like, you want more of a challenge. You just can sense that bigger deer are harder to hunt, and I don't want to say it's more thrilling, but there's just something more. There's more gratitude or something there, I guess. But it's never been like a point where I was like, you know what, I feel like I've got big deer figured out, nor do I really think that now. I mean, I do think I'm a good hunter. I don't ever like want to rank myself with anyone or anything, but I think that I actually just think I get better the older I get. Every year I feel I'm just getting better and better. Even though, I might have a down year in between a couple, but overall I just think every year I'm becoming a better and better hunter because I'm actually trying to do that. And the more time you put into something, the more it's going to give back to you. And I really feel that that's the way it's been with me. So, I would have to say my last 5 years, in my opinion, have been way better than the 5 prior to that. Although, I've killed some really big deer roughly, or, I'm not going to say I killed a lot of like mega giants. I mean, nor do I, I'll shoot 120, 130 inch deer, no problem here every year. I'm totally fine with that. But, I've killed a lot of deer in that caliber in the past 10 or 15 years. Prior to that, not many at all. So, roughly a little more than the past decade is when, I really started to pursue, and I feel like got somewhat of a handle on hunting mature deer.
Yeah, it sounds like just dedication is.
Yep.
The people that I ask that question to, that's usually the answer is just like, just kind of getting sick with it and really putting your head down and putting your time in and actually paying attention and learning and not just going out there to sit in a tree.
Yep. And I mean, not to brag, but I do feel I know more than most people when it comes to like mature big woods deer in general. But honestly, overall, I think I'm only just scratching the surface. I think there's so much to learn out there that a lot of hunters don't even realize that. And that's really what I'm more about, the learning than anything else. Like, I just love learning about it. I feel like the more I learn, just the more it just gets to be more fun that way. And my brain is just a sponge, constantly soaking up, whitetail knowledge, especially, in the big woods. That's pretty much all that I hunt. So, once again, I just think
here.
every year, hopefully it'll just continue and I'll learn more and more. And honestly, the success part, if I didn't fill a tag one year, but I really learned a lot, I could definitely live with that. The success or a kill is just a bonus, but, it's all about learning and just getting better at this, for my own self-achievements, really.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Absolutely. Nope, I'd love to, hopefully, in the future will get me on again, and definitely keep in touch with me, and have, like I said, if your listeners don't know me, have them feel free to reach out to me, and like I said, anytime I'm chatting or messaging, another fellow whitetail hunter, it always makes my day.
Yep, I'll put your Instagram handle and the website down in the show notes there. But yeah, I'll have to get someday. I'd like to try the big woods in northern PA. I got some vengeance with Ohio I got to take care of first.
Sure. Okay.
But I went there the first time. Went to Coshocton County the first week in November, and I talk about hunting pressure. Holy crap!
Yeah, it's getting worse and worse every year out there.
My intention was the big woods of the southeastern part, but plans got screwed, and we ended up there, and yeah, that was wild.
Well, Ohio's a great state. I've actually never hunted there, but tons of my clients do, and I've heard a lot of stories and seen a lot of great pictures. So don't give up on it. You're definitely in the right place.
Yep.
Well, thanks a lot for having me, Bud. And like I said, feel free to, check in with me in the future. I'd love to chat with you again. And if we're not keeping in touch a whole lot, best of luck to you this season.
Yeah, we'll be talking, buddy.
All right, take care. Have a great night.
Thank you. Bye. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Make sure and come back and join us every other Monday with a brand new episode. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, make sure and leave a review. And you can find me on YouTube at Northeast Hunt and Film. Once again, thanks for listening.